Hey guys, so here's part 2 of our section 1 day 2 notes. So we're going to now write a piecewise function given a word problem. So it says you have a summer job that pays time and a half for overtime. That is, if you work more than 40 hours per week, but no more than 60 hours per week, your hourly wage for the extra hours is 1.5 times your normal hourly wage of $7. Now what I'm going to do first is just kind of underline the numbers because that's going to be probably key to how we write some of these equations here. So like in part A, it says write and graph a piecewise function that gives your weekly pay P in terms of the number H of hours you work. So I just not underlined 40 hours, 60 hours, because that's going to come into hand. The extra hours, you get paid 1.5 your hourly wage, and your hourly wage is already $7. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to set up our function notation here. So we do have to use the variables they give to us. So we are going to have P of H, okay, equals. So P represents pay, your H represents the hours that you work. So how we're going to figure out to write our equations is we're going to create a table. So you might need to grab another piece of paper or make some room on your notes to do this, okay? So we have H, and then we have P of H. Remember, H represents the hours we've worked. P of H represents the pay, basically how much money we're going to get. Okay, let's start with the smallest amount that we can work. Know that we can't work a negative amount of hours, so the smallest will be 0. If we work 0 hours, how much do we get paid? Well, that should be easy, 0, okay? Okay, let's go up. Let's say we worked 5 hours. How much do we get paid? Now remember, our hourly wage is $7. So we do 7 times 5, that gives us 35. Okay, let's say we work 10 hours. Once again, we get paid $7 an hour. So that means we get 70 at the end. Okay, what if we're going to jump all the way up to the 40 hours? Okay, that's mean you're fully employed there. So 40 times 7, that's going to give us 280. Okay. Now, we are going to stop there because that is our normal hours. Anything afterwards is going to be considered extra, okay? So, now what we need to figure out is how can we use this table to create an equation, okay? So notice that for each of these, we multiply the amount of hours we worked by 7 to get our amount of money, right? If we look at H, right, what stayed constant? Well, it was the 7, right? Each time you get paid $7 an hour. But what changed? It was the amount of hours we worked. So that's going to be where we can represent it with a variable, and that's going to be our H, okay? So 7 times H, or 7 times how many hours we worked, that's going to be our equation. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here. So I have 7H. Okay, now let's write an equation basically for extra hours. So anything over 40. Okay. There we go. Okay, so let's start maybe with 41 hours. Okay. Now, no, we worked 40 hours, so we are still going to get $280 because we've already worked 40. But there is that additional hour that we worked. For that, we are going to get paid 1.5 times our hourly wage. So we're going to add on to what we already have, okay? Now, know how many hours is overtime. So what's the difference between 41 and 40? Well, that's 1 hour. Now, how much do we get paid for that extra amount? Now, remember, it said that for the extra hours, we get 1.5 times our hourly wage. So if we do 7 times 1.5, that should give us $10.50, or 10.5, right? So then you can go ahead and plug this into your calculator if you would like to. And we get $290.50. Okay, let's go up just a little bit more. Let's say we worked 50 hours. Once again, because you worked already the 40 hours, you get paid that amount, $280, but then we add on money from the extra hours, okay? Well, how many extra hours do we work? Well, what's the difference between 50 and 40? Well, that's going to be 10, okay? And for each of those extra hours, we get paid $10.50. Once again, go ahead and you can plug this into your calculator. I think we should get about $3.85 for this one. Okay, let's get to 55 hours. We worked 55 hours. Once again, get paid $280 because you already worked 40 hours. Okay, how much is extra from 55 to 40? So what's the difference? It's going to be 15. How much do we get paid for each of those extra hours? It's going to be $10.50. Plug this into your calculator. And we get 437.5. Okay, now notice that in our word problem, it did tell us that we did not work more than 60 hours. Okay, that is the max that we can work. So for our final amount here, I'm going to put 60. So we know we got to put 280 because that's the amount that we got from working the 40 hours. Now, what is the difference between 60 and 40? That's 20. So I worked 20 hours of overtime, and I get paid at $10.50. So my amount here is going to be $4.90. Okay, now let's use this part to create an equation. Now let's talk about what are some of the things that stayed constant. Well, we can see the 280 stayed constant. We have the plus sign that stayed constant. And then what was in the parentheses, the 1050, that stayed constant, okay? There we go. Now, the thing that did change was the amount of hours that we worked overtime. So the 1, the 10, the 15, and the 20. Now, how did we get this 1, 10, 15, and 20? Well, remember, we took our hours that we worked, so the 41, 50, 55, and 60, we took these and subtracted it from 40, okay? So we did like 41 minus 40, that gave us 1. 50 minus 40, that gave us 10. 55 minus 40, that gave us 15. So how can we write this? Well, we can say H, which is the amount of hours we worked, so like, let's say 41, right? Minus 40, because that is where the max that we can work to get the regular hourly wage, okay? I'm going to rewrite this so the 1050 is not in parentheses. You can have 2 sets if you want to. It's really up to you. Okay, there we go. So that's going to be our equation. Now, if you want to, you can simplify this, meaning you can distribute the 1050 to the H into the minus 40 and then simplify there, but you can leave your answer like this as well. I'm fine with that. Okay. So we have 280 plus H minus 40 times 1050. Okay, now our next thing that we need to do is create our restrictions, okay, using the inequalities. So this is, once again, we're going to use our table to do so. So when we did 7H, right, just our hourly wage, what was our restrictions? Well, the lowest was 0, and the highest that we got was 40. Okay, so I have 0. I am including it because you can get $0. That's a possibility. And then I'm including the 40 because you do get $280 there, okay? Now, let's look at for our second equation. What is the restriction for that? Now, though we started at 41, remember, so we don't have a gap and we don't forget any numbers, we need to start at that last number, okay? Because think about if you worked 40 and a half hours. Well, that half hour that you worked, that is overtime, so you have to include that. So what we're going to do is we're not going to use an equal bar, okay? Now let's talk about what's the most amount that we can work for over hours. Well, it is the 60. And we include that because you can still get money for it, okay? So that is going to be our piecewise function for this word problem. Now, it did tell you to graph, so you do have a graph there right next to you. Go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, so your graph should look like this. So we do have our solid circles here. There's a solid, but remember there's also the open, but that means we just basically keep it solid and then solid all the way up here. Okay, now let's state the domain and range. Remember, domain deals with our x values or the horizontal axis. So we do start at 0, right? We have a closed circle here. And we go all the way to 60, and that's a closed circle. So that's going to be our domain. So how do we write this in interval notation? So we go from 0, make sure you have that equal bar there. Now remember, we're using h, okay? And that's probably what I should have up here, h, to keep it the same, because you don't want to change your variables. There we go. So yeah, make sure you keep your variables the same here. So make sure these are h's, not x's, because that would be very confusing to do that, okay? Okay, so we have h, and then we go all the way to 60. So we can work from 0 to 60 hours. Range, that is our y, or vertical. So we start from 0. What is the most amount of money we can make? It's $4.90. So here I have 0. And then I have to do P of H because that was representing our Y's there. And I go to $4.90 because that's the most amount of money that we can make. Okay, part C. How much will you get paid if you work 45 hours? Now remember, all you have to do is figure out, well, which equation am I going to plug in 45 hours into? If you said, oh, we need to plug into the second equation, you are correct because 45 is in between 40 and 60. So go ahead and pause the video to do that. Okay, let's see if we got the same thing. So we have 280 plus 45, so you plug 45 into the h, minus 40, and then times 10.5. And then we need dollar signs because it is asking us how much do we get paid. So we have 280 plus 5 times 10.5. So I should get $332.50. Okay, don't forget, if you have any further questions, make sure you contact me. So that can be either through email or Google Meet. Okay, see you guys later.